somebody finds this out and decides, you know, they just start running in and out of the hex. Woohoo! Let's see what I got. I'm super strong. Awesome. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. And here comes the cat. Hey, WandaVision. Brought to you in 3D. Good job, Kid Lord. All right. Anyway, we're talking WandaVision, Episode 6, all new Halloween Spooktacular. We open with a Malcolm in the Middle style intro. We see the family preparing for Halloween, fun costumes from the comics. Quicksilver is the wacky uncle, and Vision pretends he's going on neighborhood watch, and that's kind of where we open. We end with Vision leaving the Hex. His body starts disintegrating and flying back into the Hex. Wanda expands the Hex to absorb Vision and also the sword base, and it just keeps going. As far by the end, it's still increasing in size, and it's turning sword agents into clowns. Darcy notably gets absorbed into the Hex as well, and that's kind of our beginning and ending. Before we launch into other info, good sir, what were your thoughts on Episode 6?
I enjoyed it. But, the closer we get to the end, I become ever more concerned, I guess. Hopeful that they will get the tone right, but fearful that, I might not be happy with what comes next. We'll see.
I felt better about what the potential ending after this episode than I had leading into now. Remember, last few episodes, or last few recaps, I've said, like, if they don't give us a clue to a big bad by episode 6, then Wanda's the big bad.
So you think she's the big bad?
I'm not. I think we had some definite clues that there was a big bad other than Wanda in this episode.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about that.
Oh, all right. We need
so
to.
I'm feeling that that the clues are being dropped. The trail is on its way. Before we launch into theory crafting and such, let's just maybe mention some of the notable things that occurred in the episode.
Sure.
Something notable is that Billy and Tommy show their powers.
Yes, that's right.
So we're seeing the early version of, I'm a speedster, I have mental powers. And they both use their powers in this episode.
Yes. And Haywood there is really, exerting his influence now, and Darcy and Jimmy and Monica, they have to be the little insurrection.
It was interesting because that is obviously in the context of the grand story, it won't cost them probably, but in the moment, if you really just think about what happened,
right,
that's a pretty big move. For them, right? They're not being physically threatened in that moment. What's happening is, hey, get them off my base.
Yeah.
So they're being escorted out.
Right.
And they assault the sword officers.
Yeah, less of a problem presumably for Jimmy since he's with the FBI.
Good point.
So, perhaps, he just had to square what he's doing with the FBI, which,
But, for Monica, it's like, that's a career ender. Like, it's not only just, like, assaulting, but, like, knocking them unconscious.
Yeah, and
dragging their bodies into a trailer.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, for Monica, it's quite, And even, I think, Jimmy could argue, perhaps, that he was the only representative of the FBI there. And so to get rid of him, rather than just say, just shut up, is rather...
Maybe Darcy's like, hey, I was working for a different... She even says earlier in the episode, like, I don't know if I'm working for you.
Yeah.
So,
like, she's obviously there at their, I guess they could say that they have jurisdiction or whatever, but...
It's a big move, let's put it that way.
To
turn around and then pummel these guys into unconsciousness, you're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Darcy hacks into the computers and... gets Hayward's plan, which turns into Project Cataract, is what we see. Just which seems to reference Vision, perhaps. A cataract being something that obscures vision.
Sure.
So maybe it's like an anti-Soups style. He seems to be really he's kind of on the anti-soups side of things, it sounds like. When he's talking to Monica and he's
Right.
like, oh, look at you defending the soups.
Yeah.
You don't know what it was like when we were here trying to survive and
Right.
blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, many people theorizing this is how they're going to bring in the Sentinels. That's maybe.
you could see that as, tie into the X-Men. This could be some kind of Sentinel program.
Although that'd be a rather strange thing for Sword to be doing, since we believe that Nicholas Fury is with Sword.
The notion that Hayward is just jerky, kill 'em all kind of general, as opposed to evil, pull the mask off guy. I think that's coming to pass. I think he is just
Hayward.
He's a bad bureaucrat and not spy that's actually whatever in league with some other group or something.
Right. Well, I mean, his interpretation of Monica, what she was saying, is just lay down or let these people do what they're going to do. I mean, he really has some, some ideas about. I mean, and he does frame it too in terms of how difficult it was during the blip or whatever, the 5 years that he had to stick around in order to, so he might have this genuine, feeling like, oh my gosh, look at these people. We've got to find some way to control them or to stop them.
I would think that because now we've got this Westview is expanding seemingly without end. I mean, I assume it'll stop at some point, but I would guess that this probably makes it an Avengers level problem. Like until now, It's been like localized, but now it's like, oh wait, the Eastern Seaboard might fall under this.
It's funny that I
dreamscape.
feel like we haven't heard from the typical people like, why aren't they calling Thor? Why aren't they calling? And of course, we know why they aren't calling Thor, but there's it's like there are some people left.
yes, there would be Avengers you could call it, but I feel like until this moment, maybe it's been this
Why aren't they
localized
calling
thing.
Hulk?
Like,
why aren't they calling? Yeah, I guess we don't really know actually who. Yeah,
it makes it seem logical that somebody like Doctor Strange will get called in, and will be like some cameo in Episode 9 or something like that. Somebody who can deal with these mystical issues.
Actually, what I would suggest is like now the problem's getting so big that he can't ignore it. That he is actually aware of it, because I don't feel like. Doctor Strange is not like some detective or something. Oh, Doctor Strange, how can I help you? He doesn't have to have an association with the government the way that Iron Man and the Avengers did.
Correct. Yeah, why are you bothering me? Oh, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, hey, there's a birthday coming up. If you could,
Yeah, do you have some balloon animals you could do? It'd be great.
Pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Vision, it's interesting in this one where, as I mentioned, he pretends to be on the neighborhood watch.
Yes.
But he's not.
No.
He's decided he's going to surreptitiously check out the neighborhood and pretend that he's on the watch to do it. He even gives a little peck on the cheek to Wanda.
Yes.
And he notably tells her, be good.
Yes.
And you can see there's a... So, and they even mention it, they do the little talking to the camera, Malcolm in the Middle style thing where the kids are like, Mom and Dad aren't exactly fighting, but they're not really. And ever since Uncle Quicksilver arrived.
Right.
So he's questioning Wanda, he's questioning this world, he wants to leave it, and so he begins to, explore.
Yeah.
And as he gets farther away from the nucleus into the outer reaches of this world, he realizes everything's slowing down, and so the people aren't actually moving anymore. They're just kind of locked in some kind of loop. There's the woman putting up an imaginary clothesline while crying. Like, oh man! Just to point out, like, they're being tortured. Yeah. This is terrible. Yeah. Then,
probably futile if he were to try to do some sort of uprising where he freed the consciousness of a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a good point. That is an option, right? He could go around and be like, tut, 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 and then make them all conscious. you're right, though. Is that a good idea or not?
I think now that I think about it, I guess what he could at least do is let's all run to Ellis Street, Presumably they're not in the same position. He didn't know what position he was in, obviously, until he tried to escape. But, as far as we know, they would just be able to run away the way Monica left. And they'd just be wearing the wrong clothes and, and maybe also be on the effect of passing through that barrier and whatever radiation is existing,
And I wonder, does Ellis run all the way around the city? Is it a circular
it's a good question.
road? Or is it just, we're talking one side, and it happened to be the side where all the sword guys
Yeah, maybe
were
that's the road that wasn't there until, until all this happened. Like, oh, we got a new street. It's called Ellis. Strange that it goes around the city.
And then,
and then the next episode, I guess there'll be New Ellis.
New Ellis. That's right. Who knows? Like, we're in the state of Ellis now. The important scene then when Vision sees a car that is parked, at the edge of Ellis, right? On the edge of the barrier, more or less. Goes down. It turns out it's Agnes, and she's, more or less frozen. I mean, she's able to talk, but is on some kind of a loop where it appears that she was attempting to leave.
Yes.
And then, as she got too close to the barrier, she was thwarted in that effort. And notably, she says, before even he brings her into consciousness, she says, I got lost.
Yes.
I got turned around, I think something like that, she says. Which obviously could just refer to, I was driving around the neighborhood. But I think maybe there's more... That's maybe a little more informative of her character pre-Westview, perhaps. Anyway, so...
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
He brings her online, so to speak, and she's terrified.
Yes.
He's like, oh, you're an Avenger. Are you here to save us? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then she's like, are you dead? Which clues him in that he was dead. So he now he has information to say, like, you were dead once. And then she says, he's like, well, I'm trying to leave. And she's like, yeah, well, Wanda won't even let us think about it.
Right.
Is the way she puts it. She starts shrieking, is like a witch hysterically, and then he just puts it, fine.
Yeah,
sure.
I think you're in better shape under her spell, actually.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just put, okay. All right.
Vision doesn't like hysterical people.
He does not. I think that is an informative moment again, where we have Agnes. She is actually more under control than I thought she was. Even I thought she was under Wanda's control, but boy, you really see here she's just frozen in place. I mean, unless it's a giant act. It seems unlikely, but I guess she could be play acting the whole thing to try to manipulate Vision. But I think we were seeing a real emotional response there.
I think you're probably right. I mean, one way, I guess, to experience it is that because she's not familiar with the town, she was operating under Wanda's influence, but because she ended up getting further out, now she was further away from Wanda's influence and therefore couldn't just turn around.
We're also given important information that Monica, because she's now been in and out of the hex a few times, we know her character in the comics gets powers.
Right.
We feel like this is probably the way that she's going to get powers.
She's
being affected by it, but that
also perhaps
suggests to me,
once she goes into the area the third time.
Right. But that also suggests that's a way that maybe others could be getting powers through this thing.
Perhaps.
This might be a way that, like, so-and-so is just a normal, mild-mannered person, and then
perhaps
he went in and out of the hex 3 times, and now somebody finds this out and decides, they just start running in and out of the hex. Woohoo! Let's see what I got. I'm super strong. Awesome. What I think is the most important scene in this episode is the commercial.
Really?
I feel like the commercial is incredibly important. Now,
okay,
I could just be totally reading into it, and hence It didn't mean a damn thing, and it was just a little red herring that I was like, oh, I fell for the red herring. But so be it. I fell for the red herring.
Oh, well,
because I'm putting a lot of stock. I'm putting a lot of stock in this commercial.
Oh, okay.
So this is actually where I'm like, I think this is the clue to the big bad. It's a commercial for Yo Magic. It's a shark. It's King Shark. They moved him over from the DC universe. I'm a talking shark. What? So it's a claymation style commercial for Yo Magic. It's probably like a little Go-Gurt or something like that. Anyway, little kid on an island, all alone on a deserted island, starving. Shark comes along. And it's like, hey, kid, looks like you're hungry or whatever. And the kid's like, well, how do you survive? How did you survive? And he's like, I think very importantly, the line is, I snacked on Yo Magic. I think that's actually really important.
Okay.
And so then he hands him magic, a Yo Magic box, but he can't open it.
Okay.
And so starves to death and dies. I think...
Interesting.
I think our big bad entity is basically stealing Wanda's magic for sustenance. It's like siphoning Wanda.
That's interesting.
I'm snacking on Yo Magic.
Right.
And we talked in this episode, she talks to Quicksilver about, hey, you know what? I was in my grief and my loneliness.
Okay.
She is the kid on the island. She was in her grief. She gets approached with a solution that's not a solution.
Right.
And if things don't change, would lead to perhaps her death or whatever. So I think the shark is representative of the big bad. And in fact, I go out. I'm pushing all the chips in, Paul.
Wow.
Pushing them in.
You about to mad somebody?
No, I'm pushing them all in on Quicksilver is not Quicksilver. Quicksilver is your big bad.
Okay.
I'm all in.
All right.
Couple of reasons for that. Well, I think what really sold it for me that I don't think this is Quicksilver is the moment when he's like, well, it's not like your husband can die twice.
Yeah.
And then she shoots him or whatever, attacks him.
Right.
That line, first of all, I'm not sure that he would know that. He might have learned that from the conversation they had earlier when she was talking about her grief. But otherwise, the Quicksilver, the character, he says, hey, I was shot like a chump on the street, and next thing I know, I heard your voice and I came here. So he wouldn't have actually been around when Vision died. So how would he necessarily know that? But even more to the point, that is a really mean thing to say. It just doesn't seem like something. The brother and sister were close.
Right.
They were very close as a family, and for him to just toss it off like, "Oh, remember your dead husband? Pfft, yeah, whatever," and being that casual about it, it doesn't sound like a Pietro thing. I think it's somebody.
Well,
like
I don't think that the character he was playing throughout is Pietro either.
True, but
I think he was saying that, hey, you want me to play this role? That's why I'm here. The role of this troublesome uncle, So you could say that that's in keeping with that character.
I feel like if she created him, would she have him say such hurtful things? I don't know.
Brothers say hurtful things.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
true.
You have a sister.
Yes. We were at odds at times.
Yeah.
I think there were some clues to the fact that he is not who he claims to be.
Well, he certainly has an unusual understanding and independence that we haven't seen exhibited by anybody else.
Plus, taking in mind the idea of snacking on Yo Magic.
Yeah.
If the big bad is there, one of the lines that I thought was interesting is the kids refer to him as a vampire, which, again, it could just be, oh, it's a Halloween episode, blah, 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 blah. But it's just kind of like he is in some ways, like he's taking Wanda's sustenance. He's anyway. So I feel like
that's an interesting theory.
They're dropping little subtexts that that he's that way. Now, I was trying to figure out a way that theory could encompass Agnes, because I think it's obvious that Agnes is a part of all this. And so it occurred to me that maybe this big bad can't manifest normally on Earth. Right now,
Sure.
he can in this bubble because it's warp, alternate reality. But normally, he couldn't just walk around and be known. And so he has to work by manipulating folks. And so perhaps Agnes was somebody that he manipulated at some point, and then realized, oh, the target I want is Wanda.
Right.
So he uses Agnes to get to Wanda. And so I'm not sure how that would affect itself, but it occurred to me, especially since apparently it was in her grief that she got approached. Maybe it's like a grief counselor type thing or something. We'll see something where Agnes is like her grief counselor, and then she's like, "I've got a solution for your problem," something like that. Maybe that's definitely putting all the chips in there. That's a theory and a half.
Right.
But anyway, I think that Agnes, the fact that she says she got lost and turned around. If you take that into the context of maybe she accidentally fell under the spell of this big bad, and so she's not exactly a willing participant, but she's being controlled to do things that she maybe otherwise wouldn't do, perhaps. Anyway, there you go. That's a lot of stuff.
Interesting, yeah.
Anyway, that's my read after episode 6 here. We were talking about Quicksilver and some of the lines he had.
You're certainly very forgiving of what she's doing.
She's like, "You don't think it's bad, do you?"
Yeah, no, I don't think it's bad. No,
it's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. How did you get the power to do this?
It comes, yeah.
Where do the kids fit into that idea? And I'm thinking maybe the kids fit into it in that this entity, in order, so he's now corporeal because they're in this alternate reality. In order to keep this storyline going, they need a reason for Wanda to want to keep living this way. And so perhaps raising kids is a good way to keep the story going, right? Oh, I mean, she might kind of wise up after a while if she doesn't have this focus of the kids need to go to school. Oh, got to do the Halloween, got to do the first Christmas, whatever.
Interesting.
And so maybe that's the idea. That's a little wonky, but obviously the kids are important to the plans of the big bad.
Presumably.
The fact that this thing is growing exponentially makes me think, is she going to be able to control all those folks, or are there going to be a whole lot of people just standing around?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, more than previous episodes, we saw the people that, Herb saying explicitly, is there something you would like us to change?
Yeah, that was a big
so
deal.
even more than the postman in that previous episode, oh, your mom will fix it. Really, just saying, hey, we're here to basically do your bidding.
I thought it was interesting too that Herb is on the neighborhood watch,
right,
and he's calling out things that Quicksilver is doing before Quicksilver does it.
Well, that's what I was thinking at first, but perhaps what it is he's going all over the town, and other people are saying, "Oh, look at this!" And so by the time he gets there, it's like, "Oh, he's doing this," rather than "What are you saying? The thing that's happening in front of my face is happening." So in terms of him getting reports, it should happen other places first, and then he's doing it so fast that he's able to do it in front of your face now.
Something that occurred to me that might be a plot point for, say, next episode or something is Darcy's inside now, but she's going to be probably a clown, right? Like the rest of them are all clowns.
Someone suggested that she would be a waitress, and I like that idea.
But it did occur to me that Vision did see her, and she was calling out to be like, "Oh, well, help him," or something. She gets handcuffed, and he
may have seen her, yeah.
Perhaps he would recognize her as you were in the group of soldiers.
Perhaps.
You were trying to help me. You maybe have information that would be helpful to me, so I will make your mind clear.
Right.
And so perhaps he seeks out Darcy and brings her online, so to speak, so that he can get info about what the hell were you guys doing out there.
Maybe.
I think that could be a thing. So Vision and Darcy, perhaps.
I mean, there's Vision and Wanda certainly should be at a level where they have to have a discussion, though.
Now, because Vision now is aware that at least he has reason to believe that he died.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be like, you didn't
Not
tell
just
me
that, he's seen outside and seen that there are, people that aren't involved who are concerned about it. And and also too, he knows what happens to him when he leaves. So he's got a lot to talk to her about. And
he certainly does.
What I've heard is that the next 3 episodes are supposed to be an hour long.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and if you look at the series as 3 acts, we're at the end of we're about to head into the 3rd act.
Gotcha. So everything has to go, completely haywire, which is maybe what this expanding hex is all about.
Yeah, and some of the scenes we've seen in the trailers that we have not seen yet is Vision has to get to the point where he buys in.
Right, he's like, let's save our world or something.
Let's fight to save our world or whatever, yeah.
Now, who is the engineer that Monica is going to visit?
Right.
We know that from trailers from future episodes, it appears that Monica is driving this large tank-looking thing into the hex. Right. So we can assume that the person she's meeting is going to provide her with this vehicle.
Right.
Is what I'm guessing.
He's supposed to be making it for her, the thing that she described.
So she calls it a he. So it's a
she said guy, which is a strange thing to say. I mean, you could call a woman a guy, but yes, her guy.
So, any thoughts on who this might be?
Simon Williams, who is Wonder Man.
Oh, okay.
Simon Williams, Wonder Man is the actual consciousness that is used to create the Vision. And in at least one interview, there was a poster of Wonder Man behind Jack, the showrunner. I think it's too much. People are suggesting maybe it's Reed Richards, and I think no, I don't think they're going to do that.
They're not bringing. I don't think Fantastic Four are due anytime in the immediate future.
Yeah, no. I think that's trying to do too much with.
But you can look at it in one of 2 ways. I think they've called it out enough that the person is important. It's not going to be like, it's Jerry. You've never met him. You'll never see him again. Thanks, Jerry. Yeah. So either the person, it's a cameo from a past MCU thing, or you're introducing a guy that then later is going to be important going forward. Yeah. So it's hard to tell if they're going to use that as a cameo drop or if they're going to use this as a going forward thing. One thing to think about is that it has to be somebody that she knew before the blip. Right? I mean, because she's only been around for a couple of weeks. She's been here most of the time. So it's somebody that's been around for years.
Yes, that's true.
So it's, I was thinking maybe she does earlier in the season when she's talking to Hayward and Hayward's talking about all these alien threats or something. And she's like, and some friends. Could be a Skrull, maybe, that is helping her with, engineering stuff. I don't know. Maybe. I would think that might be more of an up in space type thing as opposed to I built you a tank. Here you go. Maybe somebody from the Ant-Man, maybe like a Hank Pym or Ant-Man himself or somebody like that could be. Yeah, it perhaps.
With Hank Pym's, feelings about, S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that, I feel like it's less likely to be him.
I saw a theory that it might be Hank McCoy, that it might be Beast. It might be a way to introduce him into the thing. I
mean, that would suggest that the X-Men existed in the MCU before the blip.
Right.
And I feel as if...
It's like, where the hell were they?
Yeah, I feel as if the X-Men are going to come through, the multiverse and alternate universes and come in that way. Which is why it'll be interesting to see.
Because it also needs to be somebody that can provide a tank on a short notice. like as opposed to, I needed somebody to do some calculations for me. Oh, I'm really smart. I can do those. Right. Not, hey, can you create a tank that's impervious to hex magic? Oh yeah, 2 days? Got it. Like that's a whole nother set of logistics
Yeah.
So it's tough to know who would.
Well, I don't know. You know, they Marcy can like hack through a lot of stuff rather quickly. So you know, maybe they can drum up. You know, just we're gonna take put this part into this Chevy, and then it'll go. That's all you need is just this one little part that I happen to have on me.
Yeah, exactly. Transform your Datsun 210 into hex-proof tank.
Yeah.
Whoever that is,
Yes.
is obviously it will be of note.
Yes.
When that happens.
Yeah, I think it's quite possible that Quicksilver is somebody else. I was just looking at the Wikipedia entry for Wonder Man, and there's a number of times when it seems to imply that he's taking on the consciousness of somebody else, or perhaps, you know, somehow the Grim Reaper is involved or whatever, which we've heard, you know, Grim Reaper is involved with Wanda, and we saw that, you know, image in one of the starts of the animated start of the
little
show.
Animated intro, yeah.
With Grim Reaper.
Had the Grim Reaper's helmet. Whatever.
Yeah, so so it's making me wonder if Pietro is Pietro, but somebody's controlling him.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously, to be in that town, your brain has to be, you know, is receiving some information about here's how I should behave in this world. But I wonder if, you know, the fact that he's so aware of everything.
Another clue to the idea that perhaps he is not Pietro is the fact that, you know, Wanda herself is doubting whether he's Pietro, and so she's trying to test him.
Right.
And he never answers. Like, she does first she's like, hey, remember that time when we were in orphans and we did the thing? And he goes, you're testing me.
Right.
But he doesn't then say, and the answer is...
Well, he says, I get it, I'm, you know, look different, you know. But he's saying who he is, so, you know, her question is...
She's like, where's your accent? He deflects it. Where's yours?
Yeah.
He doesn't...
And she's not walking around with she's not walking around with an accent, and it makes sense if he's supposed to be, because he says, I'm performing this role that you want. Isn't that what you want? For me to be this troublemaking brother?
By the way, I'll say this, very darkly funny moment, but pretty damn funny, was remember that Halloween when we got typhus?
Yes.
And it just cuts to the two of them getting a fish in Sokovia. And you hear gunfire in the background. And like there's some kind of revolution going on. And they're trick-or-treating for fish and they get typhus.
And he mentions earlier when she's like, I don't remember that. And he says, you're just suppressing the trauma. Which is interesting.
Yep. A lot of subtext and a lot of lines from this particular episode.
So I mean, it's possible. I think that at the end of it, she might, or it's revealed that he's under the influence of somebody else, and once that's once that's done, she might say, "And you're not Pietro, right?" And he might say, "Oh, I'm Pietro, all right." But I see
what you're saying. In other words, find a way to keep the Evan Peters Quicksilver in this world instead of just being, oh no, you weren't him the whole time, and now we're back to square one.
I think that would suck.
Okay. I hear you.
Even if they did this, even if they like said, "Oh, you're not him," and then you just disappear, and then what? He's someplace else, just sort of getting off a bus or something. I think it's better if that
this is the guy somehow.
Yeah. I mean, because they're certainly making a point of, because it's still not clear exactly what their plan is. Presumably, Wanda has a plan for how Vision can sustain, It seems like a weird sort of plan, like, I'm just going to keep this town this way forever, and that's how we shall live.
I think that's her short-term goal. I think that's her.
I wonder if it's sort of like I need to bring in all the elements to make you who you need to be, so then I can stop doing this.
Okay, all right. I feel like she hadn't thought that far ahead. I think that's where we are. I think she just took this path to end her grief, and she's kind of stuck in it and hadn't really considered, like, what are you going to do for, like, 50 years? Are you going to do this for the next 100 years? Are you going to be doing it? Whatever. So but maybe you're right. Maybe she does have an end game, so to speak.
I hope so, because her discounting, or at least not understanding. I mean, I think she's sincere when she says she doesn't know how this began, and right. I think she's sincere when she says, oh, do you think I could, control a whole town or whatever? I think she's sincere. I think perhaps she's not. It's sort of like this thing is happening, and she's just not in control of it, even though she can influence it in a way. And that's why I think the whole dream logic thing follows in a way where you can be lucid in a dream and you can control it a little, but there's still stuff that happens around you.
So I mean, and I agree that
if she doesn't have a plan for how Vision sticks around, then it's going to be an interesting sort of either, and I don't think they'll do this, although I'll be unhappy if they do. If it's sort of like at the end of this, then Vision really does die. That'll
Certainly
be unfortunate. Yeah, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be trying to keep him around after this. Even if he ends up being a different Vision than she knew, I think that's more likely, because that's the thing that happened in the comics where
I got you.
She sort of brought him back, I think, and it turned out he was a different Vision. So he'd be more of a Vision from another universe, and therefore not her Vision, and that's a way for him to persist even as she stops doing what she's doing. So I kind of think is that especially since it's supposed to lead into Doctor Strange of the multiverse, so just her creating this alternate or not alternate really, this bubble where this stuff happens, that's actually not that much of a multiverse.
Sure. No, I hear you.
I
do feel like, because you mentioned dream world, and I feel like like a waking dream is a good way to imagine what's happening here.
Right. That
perhaps one of the villains that gets mentioned as a possibility is Nightmare. I don't know enough about Nightmare from the comics, but perhaps some version of Nightmare could be your villain, because
I thought of that too, actually. Because I was thinking of the actually maybe go back. The first villain that appeared in the first Doctor Strange story was Nightmare. And it's an interesting story where a guy is like having problems. He's having these nightmares about being imprisoned or whatever. And so he goes to Doctor Strange. He's like, well, I'm going to have to go into your dreams in order to see that. So he does the astral projection thing like he does in the movie. And goes into his dream, and then he discovers that this guy is a criminal. And so the guy ends up waking up and is going to kill Doctor Strange, while Doctor Strange is battling Nightmare, or at least they're having a conversation or something. It's really weird. But Nightmare, is somebody who's done that sort of in a way, and so interesting though.
So perhaps Nightmare is our villain for this the reveal, episode 9 kind of thing. Anyway, thank you, Paul, as always, good sir. And we'll be back talking about episode 7 of WandaVision. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.